Who will be the next leader of the Conservative Party, guys? It is the most exciting question asked since the last time it was asked, only about 20 months ago, which itself was the 5th time it had been asked in only 6 years, making it the 2nd most frequently asked question in Britain after... You're right. The Conservative Party has gone through something of an identity crisis of late. With David Cameron, it enjoyed its professional politician era.
Now, Prime Minister, I wonder if
Call me Dave, and let me f*** this pig's head.
With Theresa tell them to go home May and her crush the saboteurs Iron Lady rhetoric, the Tories had their Thatcher fantasy period. Then came the populism of Boris Johnson, then the madness of Liz Truss. Penultimately, Rishi Sunak generously sprayed his seeds of the race war
to stop the boats, to stop the boats, to stop the boat,
to stop the boats.
Before finally we land at where we are now, where the young, vibrant and forward-thinking membership of the UK's Conservatives will be tasked with choosing a leader that doesn't just reflect their Christian, fiscal responsibility and me-first attributes, but also the ideas and vision to meet some of Britain's toughest challenges. So I thought, you know what? Now is the time, guys. Why don't we all get on board the blunderbuss and take a look at some of politics' most shameless, fetid ballsacks. A group of people who have spent the last 14 years telling us that their colleague or boss was amazing, but who will now gleefully plunge the knife into one another like they are Macbeth in a South London turf war. First up, James Cleverly, a man who was ultimately responsible for the safety of women and girls when Home Secretary, but who joked about roofing his wife while at a Downing Street work engagement. A man who repackaged the Conservatives' official Twitter account as a fact-checking service, but who then used it to put out disinformation in an election debate. And that's just for starters. Next we go to Priti Patel, a woman who was once described as so sociopathic she would unplug your life support to charge her own phone. There's Robert Jenrick, who took time out from helping former Daily Express editor Richard Desmond to avoid tax to instruct decorators to paint over a children's refugee centre's Disney mural for fear it might make the place too welcoming. There's Tom Tugendhat, a supposed moderate, who used to push back against the Brexity culture war wards of the lunatic asylum he spent his days working in, but who can now reliably be found habitually parroting their non-sequiturs. Tugendhat must feel like he's singing the chorus to Roll Out the Barrel to a lounge full of Alzheimer's-ravaged pensioners, desperately hoping they'll come to, and smile as he over-performatively mouths the lyrics to them. There's Kemi Badenoch, a woman of colour who doesn't believe that institutional racism exists, presenting an equally interesting question as who will be the next Tory leader, which is, who should I believe? The thousands of university studies that tell me white privilege and institutional racism are actually things, or the former government minister who was herself so stupid she genuinely believed there were school children identifying as cats. So, well-documented societal prejudice sits outside the realms of possibility, but an epidemic of delusionally psychotic cat children, well, that is totally believable, I guess. Badenoch is a sort of paradoxical right-wing figure who believes her own career ascent is proof positive that our society couldn't possibly discriminate en masse against people of colour, because how could that be true when she herself has succeeded? Blissfully, ironically unaware that a huge part of her success has been gleaned by way of opportunistic, disingenuous bigots who use Kemi Badenoch as a deflection technique to point away from their socially ruinous policies which foster the racism and deepening inequality. It is the difference between thinking everything is fair, and that's how she has gotten where she is, that's how she's become who she is, and everything is unfair. But look over there. How could it be that bad when the black lady we've buoyed specifically to dismiss your concerns is also selling policy to donors in the Carlton Club? Anyway, you might think that after the gruelling, near extinction level event that was the last general election, the Conservative Party might return to the centre, given that Labour took those centre and centre-right votes from them and were able to construct a healthy majority thusly. But the outdated, deluded, acid trip with a shaman style of politics that these people now pursue, like unfixed heroin addicts chasing the dragon, well, the Tories have no intention of addressing those underlying issues whatsoever. It's a sort of extinction rebellion, if you will, although I don't suppose any of their shadow cabinet would describe it as such for obvious reasons. And so, of course, leadership-wise, candidates, contestants-wise, currently, obviously, the odds favour Bobby and Kemi, a charismaless couple whose chasm of solutions to the UK's problems is barely papered over by their respective obsession with woke and hatred for immigrants. Which means, instead of the Conservative Party taking a moment, reflecting, trying to understand where they went wrong, and perhaps nodding towards the cost of living crisis, the housing crisis, the NHS crisis, the crumbling schools, the national debt, prisons that are so over capacity and in demand, the queues to get to the front have started doing dynamic pricing. Instead of said reflection, the Conservatives are actually doubling down. More culture wars, more trans, more boats. Forget about policies. Sack off the substance. Supporters say Badenoch is the face of modern, young and energised conservatism. They say Jenrick is an ideas man, and he tells it like it is. Though for balance, I say Jenrick is a dead-eyed careerist. I'm not even about. Have you seen his interviews? Have you? I've seen more emotional exchanges in the 15th take of a double pen money shot. While Badenoch could be generously described as a batshit Baroness of Bellendry, a former Secretary of State for the Culture War, a medium of tedium, a woman so devoid of charm and magnetism, not even her own shadow follows her. And if what the Conservative Party need to recover from the electoral abyss is a break from the fantasies, the conspiracy theories of Liz Truss and the vapid populism of Boris Johnson, it is difficult to see how more detachment from reality via Kemi Badenoch and more soulless careerism from Jenrick might help with that goal. But common sense and logic have never been ones to trouble the membership with regards to who they wish was their next leader. Indeed, if you put the exhumed remains of Margaret Thatcher on the ballot, I expect a healthy number of home counties cricket club types would wank themselves limp as they scratched a cross in the box. So certain are they that that would be the best choice. Who could be better? This is important, they would tell themselves. It's life or death for us Tories. And you know what? I agree. This is hugely important. This is of significant consequence. So you better make the choice now, and quick, because you may not get another chance for around 20 months or so.
To stop the boats.